Hello, and welcome to my channel, From Chronic Fatigue to Chronic Abundance. This is my weekly live Q&A. You bring your questions, I bring my answers. I'm not saying that I have all of the answers that you need to heal from severe chronic fatigue. However, I do have some strong opinions that have come from living with severe chronic fatigue as a symptom for over 6 years of my life and having to recover 3 separate times. When I say recover, I mean getting my life back, going back to work full time, working out again, planning for the future, having a social life, and then fully relapsing several times. It's been 4 years since my last recovery, and I've now also learned how to avoid relapses. What I share on this channel and in these live Q&As is what helped me each and every time. And guess what? There's no one doctor I use to heal every time. There's no one practitioner of any sort. There's not a particular set of blood work I needed done. There's not one particular supplement I needed to heal. In fact, I needed different things to heal each and every single time. And I'm only one person. So if you've been searching for that magic bullet to cure you, that one thing that's going to give you your life back, I'm here to tell you, you've got to give up that hunt. For the vast majority of us, it is not going to be one thing. Sure, there are stories out there for every cure under the sun. I mean, there's 1,000 different things you could try today to cure your severe chronic fatigue based on someone saying that it is what cured theirs. But you know what? Odds are you're going to need a bunch of different things. And since you're giving up looking for that magic cure that doesn't exist, instead, focus on your healing journey, on discovering all the things that your body needs to heal, not just in the short term, but also long term, and also avoiding all of those relapses, okay? Get in the mindset of going on a journey to discover your best health. So the way this works, you can drop your questions over here in the chat box, and I will just go through them in order. If you've never been here before, welcome. I would love it if you said hey and let me know where you're coming from. The best part about these chats, in my opinion, is when everyone starts to weigh in. We all have experiences to share with one another that are relevant and important. We all have different takes on this. And this isn't just about, me telling you guys what to do. Like I'm out here giving you support. I'm here giving you ideas. I'm here to help you cultivate the healing mindset so you have the motivation and hope to keep going even when things are really, really dark. And the people who have started attending these regularly, week after week, have a lot of really wonderful life experiences to share with us as well. So please chime in. Let's see. So until questions come in, it's hard for me to just think of stuff off the top of my head and share it with you because I don't know how relevant it is to you in your life right now. I don't know how much it's going to help you immediately when I just think of stuff to talk about, which is why I started the live Q&As, so you can bring your questions and I can talk about what's really challenging you immediately today. Now, there's no question that's too big or too small, too weird or too personal, too specific or too vague. We've talked about a lot on this channel over the past, while. There's well over 100 videos on this channel now. And it's okay if you think the question's been asked before. We're here to talk about things over and over again because each time I'm going to talk about it a little differently. When you've heard it the 3rd or 4th time, it might kind of click a different way that helps you. Or someone else might be able to chime in with a new point of view on it that helps you move forward. If you aren't in the Facebook group yet, oops, sorry, I hit my mic. I do that like every time now. Been clumsy. I'll tell you what, real quick side story here. I have been clumsy lately, like dropping things, making messes. Today, I'm not going to do a close up, but there's a Band-Aid on my middle finger here because I almost chopped off a good hunk of my skin over top of my knuckle. I was making lunch. These Band-Aids are holding my skin on right now. Oh my gosh, blood everywhere, but it's okay. Where was I going to go before I got into that? Oh yeah. If you aren't in the private Facebook group, there will be a link to that in the description to this video when it's over. You can just, after this is done, I think YouTube needs like a minute to like process it or whatever. And then if you refresh the page, the video description will show up and there'll be a link to that private Facebook group in there. And it's a place I've created for you guys to connect with one another, get additional support on topics in between the weekly Thursday calls. And it's more intimate because instead of like, this format is like me and my face talking and then you guys just getting to chat over here, the Facebook is kind of like everyone on equal footing. And it is private, not just anyone can join. No one else on Facebook can get into that group and see what's going on. So yeah, check it out if you can. I brought that up because my post in there, I post in there like once a week usually. My post in there this week was about grieving. I asked, is there anything that you need to grieve? Because being able to grieve the things we've lost, while very hard and doesn't feel good, it actually opens us up for more possibilities to the future. The reason grieving is so important, the act of grieving is so important, is because before we've grieved, until we've grieved, we are stuck in the past. We are stuck on what was, on what existed in the past. We're stuck on the expectations for the future that we used to hold in the past. And when we're still stuck in those, we're stuck in the past, we're not able to live in the present moment, and we're not able to fully face the future because we're still looking at the future from the past. I hope this makes sense. I know it sounds kind of weird to talk about. I'm not talking about time travel or anything like that. I'm talking about human consciousness and emotions and the experience of life. Let me give an example. So when I was still sick the first time, let's talk about the first time I got ill when I was only 25. About a year and a half in, from the beginning, like my first collapse, my first energy crash. A year and a half in, I had lost a lot in my life and I was about to lose my job as well. And when I lost my job, I didn't only lose my primary source of income, I also lost my identity, a lot of friends, a lot of my social network. My pride and self-respect went with the job as well. And it was an extremely challenging time for me. Because I was also severely ill. I had seen, half a dozen doctors at that point, and they all said I was fine. They did all the blood work, and they all said I was totally fine. And I clearly wasn't. So I had no hope for the future. I had no plan. I hadn't developed the healing mindset yet. I was living with a guy who was abusive to me as my boyfriend. And life was very, very dark. Now, it took me, a good 8 months to a year before I began developing the healing mindset after that point. So like a couple years, like over 2 years in to my health journey is when I finally discovered and began to cultivate that healing mindset that helped me heal so much. Quick caveat to those of you who are new. When I talk about mindset, I'm not saying that the illness was in my head. I'm definitely not saying it's in your head. My mindset didn't heal me. I still needed the right doctors, practitioners, blood work, supplements in place in order to fully heal. There were things wrong with my body I needed to heal, but having the right mindset changed my thoughts, changed my behaviors, gave me motivation and hope and energy where I didn't have any before, in order to continue on this journey of discovering my optimal health, everything my body needed to fully heal and to eventually avoid relapse. Let's see. Oh, hi, Anna. Oh, dear. Okay. We will get to that. I'm going to finish my story I started, and then we will get to that. That is really frustrating, Anna. I agree. I've gone through cycles like that before too, of like getting sick regularly. All right. So back to my story. I was talking about, grieving. So for the first 2 years of getting ill, I was really, really stuck on how sick I had gotten, how much I had lost, how unfair it was, how frustrated I was. I spent a lot of time stuck in those emotions of like frustration and unfairness and sadness and loss and like despair at not having any hope for the future. I had no reason to hope. I hadn't given up on myself. I was still committed to finding a solution, but some days were very, very bleak. And I spent a lot of time in those heavy emotions, those emotions that were draining me of even more energy. And it wasn't until I was able to grieve what was lost that the future began to look a little bit brighter. And Anna brought up a really great question on this in the group. She says she doesn't really like to grieve what she's lost because it feels like she's also giving that up for the future. And that's a big distinction because like grief is really about the past. And if we're worried about the future, that's actually a separate thing, although they get very intertwined because in the past we had expectations for our future. And it's not necessarily the future that we're worried about. It's really that expectation we created in the past for the future that we're holding on to and need to release when we're in the grieving process. So I just want to make that distinction to try to help you separate worries about the future, about will I ever be able to work again? Will I ever be able to walk freely again? From I miss being able to walk freely. I miss being able to work. I'm very sad and I'm very frustrated by the loss of walking and working. Those are two different things, although related, obviously. So when I was very ill and I hadn't grieved yet, there was a lot of time spent thinking about all the expectations I used to have for my future. I felt really, really sad and even lonely about the fact that I didn't have promotions and raises to look forward to anymore, like I did at my job before. I was very sad that I couldn't plan out my social calendar. Hell, I couldn't even plan out tomorrow because I didn't know how much energy I was going to wake up with. I really grieved the financial goals that I had set for myself that I obviously could not meet anymore because I did have a little bit of income coming in. When I lost my job, I had some income coming in from a business I had started. It wasn't enough to live off of. It wasn't enough to pay my bills, but it was something. So it helped me not rely only on my savings. I had a little bit of money coming in from a business. But like I was still spending more than I was making on a monthly basis, still going backwards instead of going forward. And then naturally you get wrapped up you get in that downward spiral and you think, oh, I had these plans for myself and I have to let go of those plans. And naturally, when you get in that downward spiral, you start to think to yourself, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to save money again. I'm never going to be able to plan again. I'm never going to be working and getting raises and promotions ever again in my life. Oh my God. And then that just like is fuel on the fire of that downward spiral and makes things worse and worse. But once you can separate those things and once you can say like, okay, I can let go of the financial plans I had for myself. I can let go of the social plans. I can let go of, gosh, at that time I had been into CrossFit and I had started thinking about wanting to train to become like an elite CrossFitter, to think about training for the CrossFit Games. I had to completely let go of those ideas. And once you can let go of those past expectations you had, all it does is it doesn't cement it. When you let go of past expectations, it doesn't cement your future being devoid of them. Really what it does is letting go of past expectations opens up your future to be a blank canvas. You no longer have those past expectations projecting onto your future. You've let them go. And now you can say, I have no idea what my future holds. My future could hold anything at this point. My future could hold 10 more years of being this ill, which don't sentence yourself to that. But if that's a possibility, then it's a possibility. Your future could also contain winning the lottery, right? Your future could contain resuming a normal life again at some point. Like it's completely blank. You don't know. The future is unknown. We've let go of all the projections we placed on it. And suddenly you're actually in a more open and in a more energized place because we don't realize how much those past expectations for the future actually weigh us down. It's when we still have those past expectations that we still are stuck in those feelings of loss. And loss consumes energy. We have so little energy as it is that for more of that energy to be consumed by loss is just unnecessary. And I think it's tragic because that energy that you're pouring into loss is energy you could be reclaiming to help fuel your healing journey. So that's that process of grief, that process of letting go. Not letting go of hope for the future. Grief has nothing to do with the future. It has everything to do with the past. And by focusing on letting go of what we used to have and letting go of the losses and letting go of the expectations, we open up our present moment to possibility and we open up our future to possibility. And that frees up our energy. This is why I talk about mindset as being so important, because with the right mindset, we stop wasting energy, stop losing energy to those heavy emotions, and we have that energy left over to reclaim, to choose where to put it into our healing journey. Hi, Nika. Hi, Jamie. All right, we'll get to everybody's questions here in a minute. Let's see. So I really enjoyed this question in the Facebook group and wanted to bring that into here and talk about grief and why it's so important. And I actually really like this topic because it's really relevant for the world right now. I mean, what we've all experienced in terms of like losing all of the plans we had for the future, a huge portion of the world is going through that right now because of the pandemic. That was really brought home for me the other day. A woman I follow on Instagram had hosted a vision boarding session in January. People had paid money to go to her house where she had canvases and tons of magazines laid out, and everybody thought about their goals for 2020. And they cut pictures out and glued them on these canvases and made them artistic and had like brunch and made a whole thing out of like setting their beautiful intentions for 2020. And she had ripped up hers. And she had this like, in her fist, she had this like ball of just like torn up canvas and pictures and frame and everything. And she's like, I'm throwing my 2020 vision board in the trash where it belongs. Because everyone's visions for this year have been sidelined by this. Even people who aren't suffering as much financially or whatever, no one's life is going as planned right now. And maybe it's not to the same degree that we have or are currently experiencing as people who have lived with or are living with severe chronic fatigue, but it builds empathy. And I'm hoping that a silver lining for some of you out of this is that it builds more empathy and understanding from the people in your life towards you to understand the emotional hardship that you're going through in addition to the physical illness. Yes, Anna, doctors, a lot, I would say most people, when they say grieve, I think they mean just get used to it, get over it, move on. They don't really honor the process of grieving. They don't honor the purpose that it serves. They don't honor the emotional change that has to happen for grieving to take place. And they also just, like I said, that most people just haven't had an experience like that. They just don't have the empathy, the life experiences to develop empathy for things that we've gone through. And maybe this will develop a little more empathy amongst people. I actually like this conversation about grieving so much. I think I'm going to talk about it next week in my burnout business. I think people would really resonate with it and benefit from this discussion as well. All right, back to the top. Okay. Hi, Anna. You're super frustrated right now because in addition to your fatigue, you get sick every 8 days. You write down everything that you did, ate, felt before you get sick. but I was not able to find a trigger. I do have some questions. How many times has this 8-day cycle repeated itself? Are we talking like 3 times? Are we talking 20 times? I'm trying to get an understanding of the timeline over which that's happened. As a woman, I also want to ask, you getting sick, does it have any correlation to your cycle? To your menstrual cycle? Like, if your menstrual cycle is every 38 days, I'm sorry, 38, every 32 days, if your menstrual cycle is every 32 days, then like once every 8 days is like a quarter of your cycle and could be correlated. If it's not correlated to your cycle, then that would be helpful to know. But if it is correlated to your cycle, there's probably something hormonal going on. Because 8 days, I wouldn't assume that every 8 days has something to do with anything behavioral, because we live in a 7-day week society. So every 8 days seems off from that. I wouldn't think it's behavioral. It could be hormonal. It could be, 8 days is kind of like a normal amount of time to get over an illness. It sounds like you get over one. As soon as you get over one, you get another one. And if that's what's happening, then it definitely sounds like there's something going on with your immune system. Your immune system's either hypervigilant and kind of like really, really responding to every bug that you're getting, or it could be that your immune system is underactive, so you're falling susceptible to every single thing that comes along. It could kind of go either way. It could also just be that it's like springtime and there are a lot of bugs that go around. But I think that would depend on how many times you've gone through this 8-day cycle. I know you've talked about this before in the past months about getting sick very often. For me, I'm not saying this is what it is for you. There could be unfortunately, there's a lot of different reasons you could be sick so often, Anna. And I would, number one, recommend talking to your doctor about this, because they're going to be in the best place to help you through this. But for me, I was getting sick the most when I was severely iodine deficient before I had started supplementation. Since I started supplementation, I don't get sick nearly as often as I used to when I was severely deficient. I was getting sick all of the time. So if you haven't had your iodine levels tested, definitely go talk to your doctor about that. They're probably going to tell you it's not necessary, whatever. But like when you're as ill as you are, you can make the case that like, look, clearly not normal things are happening to me. Can we do some not normal tests like iodine? Okay, she says, actually it's there from the beginning. You realized it 6 months ago and observed it from there. Period is not the cause. You thought about that too. Okay, cool. So honestly, I think that's great news that it's not hormonal, because hormonal stuff is so hard to treat. And I think there's even fewer people who specialize who really know what they're doing with hormones. So, you tested iodine yourself. You're waiting for the result. Okay, great. Great. I think that's awesome. Let's see here. So, yeah. What does your doctor say about this, Anna? What does your doctor say when you tell them you've gotten sick like every 8 days for a long, long time now? I would trust their opinion on how to move forward from here, because there's obviously something very physical happening. You're going to need to find that root cause, that physical thing that's happening, address that before this gets better. And that's out of my wheelhouse, unfortunately. Your symptoms are always the same, and your CFS began with this getting sick. You've researched so much, look for doctors, try treatments, but it happens again and again. Yeah, it sounds like there's a root cause that you haven't found yet. And unfortunately, there's just 1,000 things that could be causing it. It's like this general symptom doesn't really, it doesn't give anyone like one, like it's this. If you're getting sick like this, it could be a lot of things. Okay, your doctor said it might be through the virus that might have caused the CFS. I personally doubt you have the same virus that's reinfecting you over and over and over and over and over again. I would also, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not a doctor. I haven't gone to school for these things. I would challenge your doctor's idea that a virus caused the CFS. From what I've learned, it has more to do with the virus creating stress in the body. And certain viruses can create so much physical stress in the body, biological stress, that it's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I wouldn't look at like the virus as the cause. I would look at it as like the most stressful thing to happen to you at the worst time that put your stress above a certain threshold. If that makes sense. There's no, I mean, like, of all the cases of CFS out there, like, there is basically like no evidence that there is like a virus that causes this, because there are so many people who get this without the virus. It really just seems to come down to like your personal stress level, something adding to that stress level, going over some sort of internal personal threshold. Boom, our body has overextended itself to the point where we now experience CFS. Might be worth a conversation with your doctor about that to see what she thinks. All right. Due to corona, you and your boyfriend don't go outside, so it is not through new infections. Well, due to corona, but you said that this has been going on way longer than coronavirus. And we're always exposed to new bugs and new germs, like things coming through the window. I mean, like, exposure still happens. None of us live in a sterile bubble. It's actually extremely hard to live in a sterile bubble, even if we don't leave our apartments. And you're still getting food into your apartment somehow. Like, you're still getting materials and things that you need into your apartment somehow. Like, there are absolutely ways that germs could be transmitted. All right, so back up Nika's question. All right, can you quickly tell us again, what were you low on? Oh, so many things, Nika. I was low on a bunch of things. I had multiple severe nutrient deficiencies. I mean, there were like multiple amino acids I was low in. I was severely low in all of the fatty acids, omega-3, 6, 9, 12. Like those were shockingly low in me. I was super low in iodine. What else? Those are the big ones. The iodine and the fatty acids were the worst deficiencies that we spotted within me. Let's see. All right. I think Ralph is asking me. Hi, Esley. Welcome. This is my weekly live Q&A about living with severe chronic fatigue and what to do about it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. All right. So Ralph's question, have I had experience with burnout also? This is a tough question to answer, Ralph, because I'm really having to think hard about how to answer this one. I mean, okay, here's how I'll answer it. Yes, I have had experience with burnout. And in my experience, the burnout was kind of a precursor to CFS for me. It was like the early warning sign was burnout symptoms. And I completely ignored all of the burnout symptoms I had. And I continued to work as hard as I did. I continued to be as stressed about work as I always was. I continued to work out physically as hard as I used to. I continued to have like the work hard, play hard mentality of like going out to drink and staying up late way too often. And on top of that, all of that, I had a severe eating disorder that was extremely stressful on my body. So if I had listened to my body's signals and listened to those burnout signals early on, I believe, dang it, I did it again. I believe that I would not have fallen into severe chronic fatigue syndrome if I had changed my lifestyle back when I had just had burnout symptoms. That was my body signal that, hey, something's going wrong. We can't keep up with this. And then I just powered way, way, way past those boundaries. And my body became so unbalanced and so weak and so overworked and so under-rested that it left me open to experiencing severe disease as a result. That's my answer. You too, Lee. You're welcome, Nika. Lee, crazy challenges only if they have to do with living with severe chronic fatigue. Yeah, so yep. Yeah, so I've been able to talk to a lot of people with burnout, and the cool thing about the healing mindset that I talk about on here is that the healing mindset, as I've learned from experience, applies when you're severely ill, and it also applies to life when you're well. You know, like when you're in burnout and you need to reconnect to your body's messages, and you need to start to understand what those messages are from your body. Like what does grief really mean? How do we get through that? What does guilt really mean? How do we get through that? Those same principles apply to people who are in burnout or who are trying to avoid burnout, and helping them unlock more of their energy on a daily basis. That was a really cool realization for me. So no, burnout and CFS are not the same. Roth, they're not the same. Like if it's a viral trigger, it can be called Pfeiffer or mono. I'm not sure what Pfeiffer is. When work-related crash is called burnout, and when you have tick trigger, it's called Lyme. Confusing the trigger with the true pathology. So I'm going to say I don't agree with that assertion, Roth. Because I never had a viral trigger. And I know a number of other people never had a viral trigger. Even if they've been diagnosed with ME/CFS, many, many people do not have a viral trigger. If it's a work-related crash, it's called burnout. When you have tick trigger, it's called Lyme. So Lyme is a distinctly different disease. It is a specific bacteria that infects the body and causes a host of issues. All right. And Lyme is its own category. Yes, it shares similar symptoms, but it is a completely different disease with a known cause. And we can rule out Lyme's disease very easily, provided we have accurate tests, which is a whole other topic. False positive, false negatives, all that jazz muddies the water when it comes to Lyme's diagnosis, but it's a very distinct, its own disease. The difference between burnout and CFS is not the trigger. They are vastly different. They're very similar symptoms in some ways, but they're also vastly different symptoms. I view burnout as the body's early warning system that is becoming weakened, that something's about to give. Kind of like, all right, if we think about a bridge, we have an old bridge that hasn't been well maintained. And before the bridge collapses, what typically happens is the bridge develops cracks. It becomes structurally unsound. It develops vibrations in weird places, okay? Like the bridge has like early warning signs of being unstable and maybe collapsing in the next 5 to 10 years, okay? And I kind of view those early warning signals as burnout. And then like when the bridge collapses is like when we actually go into full-blown like ME/CFS or just severe chronic fatigue for any reason. And they're two different things. They're related, but I don't think they're the same thing. That's my take on it. Isn't burnout related to low cortisol? So it can be, Nika, but it isn't always. People can be burned out and still have okay cortisol levels. I mean, low cortisol is its own very specific thing. And if the only problem with you is low cortisol, then that's actually relatively easily fixed. And I think it's something that enough people who have severe chronic fatigue look at their cortisol levels. And if all it was cortisol, then like we'd all kind of be better by now. There's definitely more going on than just low cortisol when it comes to burnout. An example, let's see, what's an example? So like when I had my cortisol tested during my first health crash, my cortisol levels actually weren't that low. They weren't optimal, but they certainly weren't bad. The practitioner I was working with at the time was actually very surprised to see that I didn't have low cortisol levels, but that's because I was very good about getting sleep. Cortisol levels can be off more as a result of poor sleep and basically extremely poor sleep hygiene can lead to skewed cortisol levels, even if you don't experience burnout as well. So it's not like a direct correlation. I wouldn't think of burnout just as low cortisol levels. Esley, if it has to do with life with severe chronic fatigue syndrome, then yes, you can suggest it. Burnout is a lot more. Burnout is also something that can be remedied without medical intervention. And many people, they don't need a doctor. They don't need supplements or medications to recover their wellness. If they implement the right lifestyle changes consistently enough over months, then many people can see a recovery from burnout, where that just isn't the case once we've gone into severe chronic fatigue or ME/CFS. Okay. All right, not on topic, so I am going to do this. All right, cool. I removed Esley from the chat because they seem like a troll. Let's see. So burnout's related, but it is different. Like the treatment for, if we go back to the bridge analogy, the treatment for a crack in a bridge or the treatment for a new vibration developing is very different to the treatment needed if the bridge starts to fall apart, right? You're going to need to do very different things. And that's kind of how I see burnout versus severe chronic fatigue or ME/CFS. They're just leagues apart in severity and what's needed to do to remedy the problem. Let's see what else. Oop, my Band-Aid. Sorry, it looks gross. Now, there are things I think that are called different things that could actually have the same physiology, the same underlying issues. I think maybe things like ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, lupus could really be the same underlying dysfunction in the body that presents differently in different cases, because those are all just collections of symptoms. And they tend to have similar onsets, where it could be viral, it could be about major life events that are super stressful. They're not well understood. They're just collections of symptoms that sometimes have similar origin stories. And I wouldn't be surprised if, 50 years in the future, we understand those things as different aspects, different presentations of the same underlying imbalance in the body. Yes, Nika, CFS is absolutely way harder to treat than burnout, which is why as a business, I feel very comfortable working with people to treat their burnout. I don't feel so comfortable as a business trying to help people with CFS because it's so much more complex. And I just don't have the medical background to be able to effectively do that. Like, I'm happy to talk about the mindset stuff. I love talking about the mindset stuff because I do think it's essential and critical, but I know it's not all that's needed. I know you need that very in-depth, detailed, experienced medical person on your team that I unfortunately cannot be at this time. I mean, I guess if I wanted to go back to med school and train and do all that for the next 15 years, I could come out the other side of that ready to do this. But sorry, guys, I'm not willing to go back to school and train again until I'm 50. No. It's my own boundary. That's where I draw my line. I don't ever want to go back to school. I'm done with that. So let's see. Oops, I just minimized my window. What else is going on? How are you guys holding up? How is coronavirus impacting your lives? I know last time we talked about it, everybody's like, my life is the same. Everything's fine. And I hope that's still the truth. I mean, I hope the pandemic hasn't brought any additional hardship on any of you. I know it's been hard for families as some people have lost their income, have lost their jobs, either temporarily or long-term. You know, I would hate for that to be impacting anybody right now, tangentially. Of course. You know, as for me, like starting this business became a lot harder because of the pandemic, but like I'm okay. Like I have the savings I need to endure this. You know, I'm not going to go hungry. I'm not going to get put out on the street or anything like that. My dog is dreaming, if you heard that. My boyfriend's business is doing great. They're actually like as busy as ever, which is amazing. There are parts of the economy and parts of the world where life is continuing on. And I think it's a great thing to remember that while parts of the world are really, really hurting, other parts are still okay. There's still some normalcy happening. Nika, yeah, your life is the same as it was. Let's see. All right. I'm struggling to like come up with things to talk about today. So if you have any more questions, now is the time to ask them so that we can stay on. If there aren't other questions, I am going to drop off a little bit early today. I did not sleep well last night. I hardly got any sleep and it's affecting my brain. I'm still very sensitive to sleep. Like as long as I get good sleep, like I'm fine. But if I don't get enough sleep, like last night, I only got 6 hours of sleep. I definitely notice it. I definitely feel it these days. And part of that's because I'm getting older. I'm 35. And I think part of it's just because I'm so used to like sleeping really well that being off my schedule is just extra disruptive for me. But I am good to answer all the questions in the world. So like, don't hesitate to answer a question. We'll give it a couple more minutes until that goes on. Or yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. If you do want to nerd out on sleep hygiene, I know sleep hygiene is a question that has come up multiple times here. I still highly recommend this Oura ring to people. The data I get from it is incredible. So you can see it's like this like plastic coated ring. It's super high quality though. I say plastic, but it's actually coated in metal. I think titanium. So it's very scratch resistant. I've been wearing this for months now and it still looks really good. And you can see it has these little sensors built into it. There's a whole there's like chips in here and little sensors and like, it's a really cool little piece of technology. It's a Bluetooth antenna in there. And what I love about it is it explains how I'm feeling. Like I wake up and I'm not feeling great and I go look at the app about my sleep quality last night. And I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't sleep well. My heart rate was high all night. My heart rate variability was low, meaning my body's been stressed out just by life or because I've been working out too much or whatever. I didn't actually rest well last night. Like, oh, that's great to know. And then it gives you advice on how to be active, on how to live your current day and like when to go to bed. I started recommending the optimal bedtime for me based on my data, which is really cool. It's actually earlier than I've been going to bed. And since I listen to the app by going to bed a little bit earlier than normal, I definitely feel better. And I definitely sleep better and I sleep longer when I go to bed just a half hour earlier than I used to, which, like I said, is such valuable advice. That's the kind of thing I could play around with trial and error for years and still be guessing my way through it, because the difference in feeling is moderate, but the difference in the data is clear. So like I can feel a little bit better in general if I go to sleep earlier, but when I get to see the data of how my heart rate lowers much more, how much longer I sleep, how much higher quality that sleep is, how much higher my heart rate variability goes when I'm sleeping, it's a no-brainer to make that little bit of effort to go to bed early because of the data. I typed it in there. You can Google it. It'll come right up. Have I ever tried CBD for sleep, or was my sleep always normal, even with CFS? I was usually a pretty good sleeper. When I was really ill, for the most part, I slept pretty well. I would say that I've always really been big into sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is something I started getting into when I was 25, the first time I got ill. So I've made it a point to try to go to bed consistently around the same time. No screen time before bed, blue light blockers. I have them on the couch here. Blue light blockers I wear at night to protect my eyes from blue light, because blue light will interrupt your sleep quality. I eat dinner early. I don't have snacks at night because that helps me sleep better. I do a lot of things to make sure I get high quality sleep, and I've been doing that for a long time, and it's paid off. I've never tried CBD for sleep, but like that's the kind of thing where like you could try it and see if you feel better. But if the other components of sleep hygiene aren't there, like if you're not going to bed consistently, if you're not regulating your circadian rhythm, CBD is only going to have so much of an effect. You still need those core sleep hygiene principles in place for it to work super well. I do take melatonin. Actually, no, it's over in the cabinet there. I take melatonin at night because because over New Year's, over 2 nights, I stayed up until like 3 or 4 a.m. in a row. And doing that for 2 nights in a row completely messed up my circadian rhythm. I mean, I thought after like 6 weeks, I could like adjust my circadian rhythm just by like getting back into a routine. And my circadian rhythm was still messed up after 6 weeks from New Year's. So I'm using melatonin to reset my circadian rhythm, and that definitely helps me sleep better. But you have to take the melatonin at like the same time every night, and you have to take it about 30 minutes before you want to go to sleep. If you don't use melatonin properly, it's not going to work. You need to be in that routine, in that habit, have that consistency and structure in your schedule for melatonin to work. You've also got to play around with the right doses. I've taken different doses of melatonin, Nika. In the past, 1.5 milligrams was the right dose for me. For a while, I took like 2.5 grams of melatonin at night, and that was the right dose for me. More recently, 5 milligrams is what I need to feel a difference. But that could change in the future. It's always fluctuating depending on my needs. I agree with Ralph about the CBD benefits being overblown. All right, Ralph says, just got the answer mail for my complaint. I only have 2 options left with revenge because suing them is not going to be achievable because you can't prove shit. We're still on the revenge. Oh no. I mean, this was the guy who was ultimately responsible for your worst crash, right, Ralph? Let's see. Ross says, I put aluminum foil on my windows equals free melatonin. I don't understand. Are you blue light? Is that because you're like blocking out the light? It's like, I'm not sure what that means. Ralph. I know you're putting a lot of energy into this revenge thing though. Is that really where you want to put your energy when you're this ill? I know revenge can feel good. But is it going to feel good enough to warrant the energy and resources you're putting into this instead of putting into discovering your healing journey? That's my question to you. That's your question to answer. A woman. Oh, it's a woman. Oh, I didn't realize it was a woman who did this to you. I don't know what else to say, Ralph. I don't know what else to say about your revenge. I'm sorry you haven't gotten a resolution for this yet. I wish you had. I wish you had. That's all I want to say. She made you believe that you were going to lose your benefits and you would be left with no income, even though you were protected from the government, but you didn't know that. Um, how come you can't prove that? You don't have emails, text messages, like physical mail from her? You don't have anything in writing about what she made you believe? Because if you have things in writing, that sounds like a case. I mean, if someone was lying to you or misrepresenting the facts or something like that, and you have that documented somewhere, even if you've recorded a telephone conversation or something. So, Ralph, I don't know if you were on at the beginning of today's live stream, but I was talking about grief, and I was talking about one of the important aspects of grieving being we need to address all the expectations for our future that we used to hold in the past. Like at some point in the past, we developed an expectation for our future. And by holding on to these old expectations in the past, we're also holding on to this idea of what the future should be. And whenever we're holding on to this old idea of what the future should be, we're actually limiting ourselves because we're staying stuck in what our future can't be and won't be. Whereas when we can release those old expectations through the grieving process, our future doesn't become determined. It doesn't mean those things are never going to happen. It just means our future's a blank slate again. Our future is open for anything because we've released the old expectations on it. And I bring that up because the benefits of looking at things that we're sad about, things that are unfair, things we're frustrated or angry about from our past, as long as we're holding on to those, our present moment and our future are colored by them. And we're losing our precious energy to those things. It's when we can let them go that our present moment and our future can be opened up again to possibility. As long as we're letting the past dictate what we're thinking about today and what we're expecting for tomorrow, we're trapped. We're trapped in that pattern. We're trapped in that energy loss. And of course, that's not what I want for you. I want you to be open in this moment, to have that energy back to yourself, not wasting it on revenge, but back to yourself, and allowing your future to be more free and open of these things. Now, revenge, this applies when we talk about revenge. If, this is the first time you've shared these details about how it seems like they either misled you, either maybe they lied, maybe they didn't have the right facts. We don't know why they made you believe you were going to lose your benefits, even though you wouldn't. That sounds more like wanting to get justice for yourself. I wouldn't consider that revenge as much as you want justice for being wronged, right? And justice has different energy behind it. Whereas revenge is petty, justice is about standing up for what's right and doing what you can to have that situation rectified in a way that's fair to you and also fair to the person who wronged you. It's fair for the person who wronged you to have to suffer in some way for wronging you, right? That's justice. So she only said it verbally. She's not stupid. There are witnesses, but they are not on your side. You may need help for this. You still have intense anger and anxiety and shame from it. That's an interesting emotion when someone has lied to you, to feel shame. My question to you, Ralph, is what did she have to gain from lying to you? What did she get out of this exchange with you that has you framing this as needing to get revenge as opposed to seeking justice. You still have intense anger and anxiety and shame from it. Yeah, I mean, Ralph, like this is the kind of topic that absolutely should be had in depth with someone. Like this is a very deep, very emotional topic that is not going to be addressed in 5 minutes with us on YouTube like this. Like it would need to be a focused one-on-one private like 1 hour conversation for this to go anywhere and be therapeutic for you. Like right now we're just trying to address the surface level things that are coming up, trying to give you some new tools on how to reframe this. But yeah, this is a deep topic that deserves focused attention. The shame is from what happened after and during that work. She did it on purpose. She always alluded to your illness as psychosomatic or even imaginary. So she didn't believe that you had any problems, and she thought that by forcing you to stay at work, she was doing you a favor or something, or like she was proving herself right, or like what do you think she got out of it though? Like even if she thought your illness was psychosomatic, why would she care if you work or not? Forcing you to go to work, not staying. So I can understand severe intense emotions from someone who doubted your illness is real. That that is deeply harmful. That is deeply hurtful to have someone outright deny that we're truly ill, that we truly have a problem. And then to have that layered with her actions leading to harming you as well. Like that's one of those like truly horrible tragedies. She believed it would help you. She said that to her colleagues. So she thought she knew better than you. She thought she knew what you needed. And she thought she was like stepping in and being your mom here and trying to take care of a grown person. Um, I don't know, Roth. A lot of lawyers will do free consultations. If I were you, I would ask around, get a good recommendation on a lawyer who handles, obviously this is a workplace lawsuit. So like you wouldn't be suing her as a person. You would be actually, I don't know, you know what? I don't know how that would work. I don't know if you'd be suing her as a person or if you would be suing the company for her actions while on like the clock, while getting paid. You should find a lawyer who specializes in like HR claims like this and just get a free consultation. Maybe talk to 3 different lawyers who come highly recommended and just see if there's a case here. Because the more you're sharing information here, this doesn't sound like a revenge case to me. This sounds like justice. And I can totally support wanting to get justice as long as the outcome could potentially be worth the energy and time that you're going to put into it. The only reason you tried to work was because you were sure that you would lose your benefits if it was not true. Yeah, I understand. I completely understand trying to keep your own financial needs met by working as long as you can if you believe that you will lose those benefits if you stop working. And it was very, very wrong of her to lie to you, to manipulate you for her own personal gain, because she didn't do it for you. She did it because she wanted to feel good about doing the right thing for you. Okay, you did consult a lawyer. I'm glad to hear that. They will deny the lies. It's justice. All right. So I am going to hop off here pretty soon. One more thing, Ralph, before we go, that you're holding on to, the fact that you're framing it as revenge shows me that this is still harmful to you, that she still has power over you and she is still robbing you of your energy because of the emotional energy that you're putting into this. Now, you can still pursue justice without the shame, without what are the other, without the anger, without the anxiety, without the shame. You can still pursue justice. You can still be fully motivated to receive justice in this case without wearing yourself out, wearing yourself down from these heavy emotions. And that is a delicate thing to do. Like I said, we're not going to solve this in 5 minutes on a public YouTube chat. It's the kind of thing that definitely warrants a focused one-on-one, 1 hour discussion with someone who can help you with this, who can help you tease through the layers of not wasting your energy on heavy emotions while still staying motivated to seek justice for yourself. And I would love for you to find that balance for yourself. If you think it's possible, if you don't think it's possible, we should talk about it again sometime because I think it is. Justice is good, but wearing yourself out getting justice isn't. Get justice within your energy envelope, within your capabilities, bringing to it those more positive emotions as opposed to being held down and held back by the heavy ones. Okay, protect your energy. Don't let her continue to rob you of good things in life. All right, Ralph, my heart goes out to you. It's a really hard situation and a very, very unfair one. I agree. All right, I'm going to sign off. As always, sending you so much health and so much love. I'm Kristin. We'll do this again, same time next week, 1 p.m. Eastern, next Thursday. And in the meantime, if you want to check in, you want to have some more conversations, check in on the Facebook group. We can talk about stuff there. Okay, guys. My love. Take care. Bye.